If you ignore what is happening inside you right now, you may not lose a thing you can touch, but you may miss the moment when your whole way of seeing reality begins to change. And the strange part is this: the leap you have been waiting for may not arrive as thunder in the sky, but as a quiet shift in your attention. It is no coincidence that you are here. Not everyone stops at a message like this. Not everyone feels the pull behind these words. Something in you recognized the title before your mind had time to explain it, and that recognition matters. The leap begins when you notice. Before this ends, you will understand why this century is not only a time of technology, disruption, and noise, but also a time when human consciousness may be reaching a threshold. You will see why so many people feel restless without knowing why old identities feel too small, why the world seems faster than the soul can process, and why your sensitivity may not be weakness, but preparation. There are those who will pass through this era half asleep, scrolling, reacting, repeating the same emotions, the same fears, the same inherited patterns. And there are those who will pause, breathe, listen, and begin to participate consciously in the transformation. You are being invited into the second path. If this resonates, subscribe now, not as a casual gesture, but as a small energetic commitment to keep returning to this frequency. When you subscribe, you are not just following a channel. You are placing an anchor in your own journey, telling yourself, I am willing to pay attention. And in a century built to distract you, attention is sacred. Because this message is not about escaping life. It is about entering it more awake. It is about realizing that the greatest leap in consciousness may not be something humanity does all at once, but something that begins in individuals who decide to stop living mechanically. And maybe that is why you are here. For years, many people have felt that something is off. They wake up, move through responsibilities, answer messages, meet expectations, perform strength, and still feel a subtle emptiness beneath everything. They may have comfort, information, entertainment, and goals, but somewhere deep inside there is a quiet question. Is this all I came here to experience? If you have felt that question, you are not broken. You are not behind. You are not being dramatic. You may simply be reaching the edge of an old level of awareness, where the life that once satisfied you can no longer contain the being you are becoming. This is one of the first signs of the leap. Not the dramatic sign, not the cinematic sign, the subtle one. A tiredness with superficial living, a hunger for truth, a sense that the old explanations are no longer enough, a strange sensitivity to people, places, conversations, energies, and choices that once seemed normal. Some perspectives in philosophy, psychology, and contemplative traditions suggest that human beings do not only change by acquiring more information. We change when our perception changes. We change when the meaning we assign to experience changes. We change when we stop seeing ourselves as isolated fragments and begin sensing our participation in something wider. This does not require blind belief. It requires attention. And here is the first revelation. The leap in consciousness is not about becoming someone special. It is about remembering that your attention has always been shaping your experience of reality. Not in a magical, guaranteed, control-everything way, but in a deeply human way. What you repeatedly notice becomes important. What you repeatedly fear becomes familiar. What you repeatedly choose becomes identity. So the question is not only what is happening in the world. The deeper question is, what part of me is being trained by the world without my permission? Let that land. If that sentence touched something in you, like this video now as a way of anchoring this first recognition. Not because a button has supernatural power, but because intentional action teaches the nervous system, the mind, and the heart that a moment mattered. It says, I saw this. I am awake enough to mark it. The leap begins when you notice. There are two paths in front of you. One path is familiar. You keep going as before. You let the speed of the world decide the rhythm of your soul. You let algorithms decide what you desire. You let old wounds decide what you believe you deserve. You let collective fear decide the size of your future. The other path is quieter, but far more powerful. You begin observing. You stop giving your energy to every distraction. You question the thoughts you inherited. You choose presence over reaction, depth over noise, alignment over approval. You do not become perfect. You become conscious. And that difference changes everything. Soon, you will see why this leap is not simply personal. Later, you will discover the 3 thresholds that many awakened people quietly pass through. And by the end of this message, you will have a simple internal practice you can return to whenever the world tries to pull you back into unconscious living. But first, we must speak about the age you are living in. This century is unlike any other. Humanity has more access to knowledge than ever before, yet many people feel more confused. More connection than ever before, yet many feel alone. More tools than ever before, yet many feel powerless. More opinions than ever before, yet less inner certainty. This paradox is not accidental. When external information expands faster than internal awareness, the human being becomes overloaded. The mind fills, the body tightens, the spirit gets quiet, and slowly, without noticing, people begin to confuse stimulation with aliveness. But stimulation is not awakening. Awakening is not the next video, the next trend, the next secret, the next technique, or the next identity you wear to feel different. Awakening is the return of direct seeing. It is the moment you realize, I have been living inside reactions I did not choose. It is the moment you understand that not every thought deserves your loyalty. Not every fear deserves your obedience. Not every desire belongs to your soul. This perspective has been explored in many forms across contemplative traditions, mystical schools, philosophical teachings, and modern inner work. Different languages, different symbols, different maps. But one recurring idea appears again and again. Most people do not suffer only because of what happens to them. They suffer because they identify completely with the smallest interpretation of what happens. And this is where the leap opens. The first threshold is attention. The second is identity. The third is participation. Attention is the gate. Identity is the chamber. Participation is the new life that begins after you cross. The first threshold, attention, asks you to see what is taking your life force. What captures your mind when you wake up? What emotion do you rehearse most often? What invisible story follows you from room to room? What do you check, repeat, fear, crave, defend, and avoid? These questions are not here to accuse you. They are here to bring you back to yourself. Because many people are not consciously choosing their inner world. They are living from fragments. A comment someone made years ago. A rejection that became a belief. A failure that became a personality. A fear that became a plan. If you recognize yourself here, breathe. You are not late. You are noticing. And noticing is the beginning of freedom. Write this in the comments if you feel ready. I am ready to notice the leap. Write it slowly, not as performance, not to impress anyone. Write it as a signal from the part of you that refuses to remain asleep inside your own life. Sometimes, naming a threshold helps us honor it. The second threshold is identity. This is where many people resist, because they want a new life while protecting the old self that cannot enter it. They want expansion, but they keep defending contraction. They want peace, but they keep feeding the story that only chaos is real. They want purpose, but they remain loyal to the version of themselves built for survival. And listen carefully, because this matters. The old self is not your enemy. It protected you in ways you may not fully understand. It learned to adapt. It learned to please. It learned to hide. It learned to be strong when softness felt unsafe. But what once protected you can later imprison you if you never update your identity. This is not about rejecting who you have been. It is about thanking that version of you and realizing that a larger self is beginning to emerge. The leap begins when you notice. The third threshold is participation. This is where consciousness stops being an idea and becomes a way of living. You begin to understand that your presence affects your choices. Your choices affect your relationships. Your relationships affect the field around you. And in this way, without needing to make exaggerated claims, we can say that every person who becomes more conscious may contribute to a more conscious human environment. You do not need to change the entire world today. You begin by changing the quality of your participation in it. How do you speak when you are triggered? How do you listen when you disagree? How do you consume information? How do you treat your body when no one is watching? How do you respond to silence? How do you handle uncertainty? How do you carry power when you have it, and humility when you are learning? These are not small questions. These are initiation questions. There are those who have explored these ideas for centuries through symbols of awakening, veils, inner temples, sacred mirrors, and hidden doors. Whether we read them as spiritual truths, psychological metaphors, or poetic maps, they point toward the same possibility. Human beings can live from deeper levels of awareness than the ordinary surface mind. This perspective is not usually shared in a simple way, because it is easy to turn it into fantasy. But the real leap is practical. It is intimate. It is visible in the way you pause before reacting. It is visible in the way you refuse to abandon yourself for approval. It is visible in the way you choose truth over performance, presence over noise, and inner alignment over unconscious momentum. And now comes the subtle urgency. This window does not stay open in the same way forever. Not because the universe is punishing you, not because you have one dramatic chance and then everything is lost, but because every era trains its people. If you do not choose what trains your attention, something else will choose for you. If you do not choose what shapes your identity, old patterns will keep shaping it. If you do not choose how to participate, you may spend years reacting to a world you never consciously agreed to serve. That is the fear, not disaster, not doom. The fear is sleep. The opportunity is this moment. The control is attention. So pause with me now. Not fully yet, just gently. Inhale through your nose if you can. Exhale slowly. Feel the chair, the floor, the weight of your body, the space behind your eyes. Let your shoulders soften, even slightly. Allow the world to continue outside you while something steadier gathers inside you. Feel, breathe, allow, observe, accept, receive. You do not have to force anything. You do not have to become mystical on command. You do not have to prove that you are awakening. Just notice the simple fact that you can observe your thoughts. And if you can observe them, perhaps you are not only them. That one realization has changed the inner life of many people. If this moment brought even a little stillness, like the video to seal this pause, let it be a small mark of presence, a quiet yes, a way of saying, I am not rushing past this. And if someone you know has been feeling lost in the speed of this century, share this with them, not to convince them, not to pressure them, simply as a gift, as one candle lighting another. Now let us go deeper. Many people imagine the greatest leap in consciousness as a sudden global awakening where everyone becomes loving, wise, and peaceful overnight. That is a beautiful image, but it may not be how transformation usually works. More often, a leap begins as tension. The old structure becomes too heavy. The old story cracks. The old identity can no longer explain the new sensitivity. This is why so many people feel both excited and exhausted. They sense possibility, but they also feel the grief of leaving behind who they thought they had to be. They want expansion, but they are afraid of losing belonging. They want truth, but they are afraid of what truth may ask them to release. If that is you, listen closely. Nothing real in you is being destroyed. Something false may be losing authority. That is different. The leap is not an escape from the human experience. It is a deeper entrance into it. It is feeling without drowning, thinking without being trapped, loving without disappearing, creating without needing constant validation, resting without guilt, acting without the old addiction to urgency. And there are signs that you may already be standing at this edge. You no longer resonate with conversations that only repeat fear. You feel tired after pretending to be smaller than you are. You notice patterns in your relationships more clearly. You question what success means. You feel drawn to silence, nature, prayer, meditation, art, service, or deeper study. You sense that your life is not only about achievement, but about becoming coherent. Coherence is one of the hidden keys. Not perfection, coherence. When your thoughts, emotions, words, and actions begin to move in the same direction, you may feel less divided inside. Many people describe this as peace, clarity, power, or alignment. We do not need to exaggerate it. We can simply honor it as a profound human possibility. And here's another revelation. The leap of this century may not be primarily technological, although technology will shape it. It may not be primarily political, although systems will be challenged. It may not be primarily spiritual in the old sense, although the soul will be involved. The leap may be the movement from unconscious fragmentation to conscious integration. Fragmentation says, I am one person at work, another with family, another online, another in private, another in pain. Integration says, I am learning to return to one center. Fragmentation says, my attention belongs to whoever can capture it. Integration says, my attention is my sacred resource. Fragmentation says, I must become what the world rewards. Integration says, I must become what my deepest truth can sustain. This is the leap. The leap begins when you notice. And when you notice, you begin to reclaim small pieces of power that were scattered everywhere. A piece of power trapped in comparison. A piece trapped in resentment. A piece trapped in fear of being seen. A piece trapped in the need to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding you. A piece trapped in waiting for permission. This is why the process can feel emotional. You are not just learning a concept. You are gathering yourself back. Take a moment and ask yourself, where did I leave my attention today? Where did I abandon my center this week? What story keeps pulling me into the past? What future am I afraid to imagine because it would require me to become more honest? Do not answer quickly. Let the questions work. Some questions are not meant to be solved immediately. They are meant to open rooms inside you. And in one of those rooms, you may find the self that has been waiting. Not a perfect self, not a superior self, a truer self. A self that is less interested in performance and more interested in presence. Less interested in being chosen by the world and more interested in choosing consciously. Less interested in spiritual aesthetics and more interested in embodied integrity. This is where the archetype of the chosen one must be purified. You are not chosen because you are above others. You are chosen in the sense that you are being called by your own consciousness. Not to feel special, but to become responsible. Not to escape humanity, but to serve it through the quality of your being. Not just anyone reaches this part of the message with full attention. If you are still here, that says something about you. It says you are willing to stay with depth. You are willing to let the noise fall away. You are willing to receive what cannot be understood by rushing. So write this in the comments if it feels true. My attention is returning to me. When you write it, notice how it feels. Notice whether part of you resists it. Notice whether another part of you relaxes. The act is simple, but simplicity can be powerful when it is conscious. Now we approach the deeper layer. There is a hidden misunderstanding about consciousness. Many people think consciousness means having beautiful thoughts, feeling peaceful all the time, or believing spiritual ideas. But consciousness is more radical than that. Consciousness is the light that reveals what is actually happening. It reveals your love and your fear, your wisdom and your avoidance, your calling and your excuses, your tenderness and your armor. This is why awakening can feel uncomfortable, not because something is wrong, but because light shows everything. And yet, this is also where hope becomes real. Not naive hope. Not the hope that says everything will happen exactly as you want, but the mature hope that says, I can meet reality with more presence than before. I can choose a different response. I can grow in awareness. I can stop outsourcing my inner life. That hope is powerful. Some people will ignore this. They will hear words like consciousness and turn away because they think it is abstract. Others will turn it into fantasy and avoid the practical work. But those who truly hear it will understand that the leap is not a theory. It is the next breath, the next choice, the next honest conversation, the next moment you do not betray yourself. That is why this century matters. The pressure is high, the noise is high, the opportunity is high. Everything is amplified. Distraction, creativity, fear, wisdom, division, connection, confusion, awakening. In an amplified era, unconsciousness becomes more costly and presence becomes more precious. You can choose to keep being carried by the current, or you can begin to become conscious of the current. You can choose to defend the old identity, or you can listen to the new one forming. You can choose to wait for the world to become peaceful before you cultivate peace. Or you can become one of the places where peace learns to enter the world. This is not passive. This is not weak. This is sacred discipline. Soon, the final revelation will become clear. The greatest leap is not something you chase. It is something you become available to. But before that, let us enter the second trance moment. Because understanding alone is not enough. The body must be included. If it feels safe, soften your gaze or close your eyes for a few breaths. If not, simply lower your attention toward your heart. Inhale gently. Exhale as if you are releasing an old frequency from your chest. Imagine that your awareness is a soft light, not above you, not far away, but inside the room of your body. Let that light move slowly through your forehead, your throat, your chest, your stomach, your hands. No force, no expectation, just awareness. And as you breathe, imagine that every part of you that has been scattered across fear, memory, comparison, and urgency begins to return. You do not need to see anything clearly. You do not need to feel anything dramatic. You might simply sense warmth, or space, or nothing at all. That is okay. The practice is not to manufacture an experience. The practice is to become present enough to notice what is here. Breathe in, I return. Breathe out, I release. Breathe in, I remember. Breathe out, I soften. Take a moment, let this settle. The leap begins when you notice. If you felt even a subtle shift, like this video now as a way of anchoring the state, let the action be ordinary and intentional at the same time. A small gesture, a conscious mark. A reminder that you do not have to wait for perfect conditions to return to yourself. Now, from this quieter place, listen. The leap in consciousness of this century may be the movement from being ruled by external acceleration to being guided by internal coherence. The world will likely keep moving fast. Systems will keep changing. New tools will appear. Old certainties may dissolve. People may argue louder. Information may multiply. But the conscious human being develops another kind of intelligence. The ability to remain inwardly awake inside outer acceleration. This is not withdrawal. This is mastery of presence. When the world rushes, you breathe. When fear spreads, you observe. When comparison burns, you return. When old wounds speak, you listen without surrendering the throne. When opportunity appears, you act from alignment rather than panic. This is the spiritual warrior within the chosen one. Not fighting people, not fighting life, but refusing to let unconsciousness govern the temple of your attention. And yes, this requires practice. No single video completes the transformation. No single realization makes you permanently awake. Consciousness is a path of returning again and again. You are beginning to remember, but remembrance deepens through repetition, humility, and lived choices. This is the first step toward a wider identity, not the final destination. That is important, because if you demand instant completion, you may miss the beauty of becoming. There are moments when you will forget, you will react, you will get caught in old patterns, you will give your attention away, you will shrink, you will doubt. And then, if you are sincere, you will notice, you will breathe, you will return. That return is part of the leap. Awakening is not never falling asleep. Awakening is recognizing sleep sooner. Feel the mercy in that. You do not have to become a flawless being to participate in a conscious century. You begin with honest awareness. You begin by reclaiming your attention. You begin by listening to the deeper intelligence beneath noise. You begin by choosing, in small ways, to stop betraying what you know is true. And when enough people begin making those small choices, the atmosphere changes. Families change. Workplaces change. Conversations change. Art changes. Leadership changes. Education changes. The future becomes less mechanical and more human. Again, this is not a guarantee. It is a possibility. But possibilities become stronger when people live as if they matter. This is why your presence in this moment matters. Not because you alone must carry the world, but because no awakening is abstract. Consciousness always enters through someone. Through a breath, through a choice, through a word, through a refusal to keep repeating inherited pain, through a decision to become more truthful than comfortable. If this truth is landing in you, write this declaration in the comments. I choose the leap of consciousness. Let those words be not a boast, but a vow of attention. And if you feel called, share a sentence about what you are ready to stop ignoring. Your words may become a mirror for someone else who did not yet know how to name their own awakening. Now we come to the main revelation. The greatest leap in consciousness is not from human to superhuman. It is from unconscious survival to conscious participation. It is from life is happening to me, to I am learning how to meet life with awareness. It is from I am my fear, to fear is moving through me, and I can listen without obeying. It is from I must be chosen, to I can choose how I show up. This changes the meaning of everything. Pain becomes not something to worship, but something to listen to with compassion. Desire becomes not something to chase blindly, but something to examine with honesty. Failure becomes not proof that you are unworthy, but information for refinement. Success becomes not identity, but responsibility. Solitude becomes not abandonment, but a doorway. Love becomes not possession, but presence. This is the leap, and the people who ignore it may still live busy lives. They may still achieve things. They may still look successful from the outside, but they may miss the inner revolution. The shift from being programmed by the age to becoming conscious within the age. That is the opportunity before you. Not tomorrow. Not someday when everything is calm. Now, in this strange and sacred century. Now, while the world trembles between collapse and creation. Now, while old structures reveal their limits. Now, while your own heart is quietly asking for a more honest life. This is not a reason to panic. It is a reason to wake gently. You are not here to condemn those who sleep. You are here to become luminous enough that awakening feels possible. You are not here to pretend you have all answers. You are here to embody better questions. You are not here to escape the human story. You are here to participate in its evolution with deeper awareness. The leap begins when you notice. Let the new identity form slowly. You are becoming someone who can pause, someone who can observe, someone who can feel deeply without being destroyed by feeling, someone who can question inherited patterns, someone who can choose meaning, someone who can sense the difference between noise and truth. You are becoming a guardian of attention. Say that inside yourself. I am becoming a guardian of attention, not a prisoner of the feed, not a servant of fear, not a puppet of old pain, a guardian, a conscious witness, a participant in the awakening of your own life. And now, one final integration. Bring your awareness again to the body. Feel your feet, your hands, your breath. Notice the space around you. Notice that you are here in a real moment, not only thinking about transformation, but tasting the possibility of it. Ask yourself quietly, what is one thing I must stop ignoring? What is one pattern that keeps me asleep? What is one choice that would make me more coherent today? Do not choose 10 things. Choose one. One honest action is more powerful than 1,000 spiritual fantasies. One conversation, one boundary, 1 hour of silence, 1 page written, 1 apology, 1 decision to stop feeding a fear, 1 moment of breathing before reaction, 1 act of devotion to the life you say you want. This is how the leap enters the ordinary. And perhaps that has always been the secret protected beneath symbols, temples, teachings, and whispered traditions. The sacred is not far away. It waits inside the quality of your attention.